Today we are going to talk about spermatogenesis. The primary sex organ, that is testes in the males and the ovaries in the females, produced a gamete which is called as sperms and ovum. So the testes in the males, they will produce a sperm, and the ovaries in the female, they will produce a ovum by the process which is called as gametogenesis. So in testes, the immature male germ cells is called as spermatogonia. Spermatogonia. So the immature male germ cells, which is called as spermatogonia, produced a sperm by spermatogenesis. Sperma meaning sperm and genesis meaning formation. So it is called as spermatogenesis, by which it produces a sperm. That is, this will begins at a puberty. So at puberty, what will happen? There will be spermatogenesis, that is productions of the sperm. The spermatogonia present on inside walls of the seminiferous tubules. So these spermatogonia is present inside walls of the seminiferous tubules. Multiply by mitotic division. So it will multiply by mitotic division and increase in number. Each of the spermatogonium is diploid. This is very important. And it contains 46 chromosomes. So the spermatogonium, it is diploid and it contains 46 chromosomes. In testes, there is immature male germ cells which is present. So this is a immature male germ cells which is present in a testes, which is known as spermatogonia. So this is called as spermatogonia, okay, which produces a sperm. So these will produce a sperm by the process which is called as spermatogenesis. Sperma yani sperm and genesis meaning formation or creation. This will begins at puberty. So this process, that is begins at puberty. So these spermatogonia which is present inside the seminiferous tubule. So this spermatogonia which is present, it is present inside walls of these seminiferous tubules, which will multiply by, so these will multiply by mitotic division and increase in number. So this will undergo which division? Mitotic division. So this spermatogonia which is present, it will undergo mitotic division. Where spermatogonia is present? It is present on the inside walls of the seminiferous tubules. So it is present on the inside walls of the seminiferous tubules, this spermatogonia. So this spermatogonia, it will undergo a mitotic division. Which division? Mitotic division, which is also known as equation division, to increase in number. Spermatogonium is diploid. Diploid meaning it contain how much chromosomes? It contain 46 chromosomes. So it is a diploid. Some of the spermatogonia, so from these, some of the spermatogonia, so they which are called as primary spermatocyte. So some of the spermatogonia are known as primary spermatocyte. So these are called as primary spermatocyte, which will periodically undergo meiosis. So these will undergo meiosis, meaning what? Reduction division. So these primary spermatocytes will complete its first meiotic division, that is called as reduction division, leading to the formation of the two equal haploid cells. So they will produce two equal haploid cells. Now these haploid cells are called as what? Secondary spermatocyte. So these are called as secondary spermatocyte. So which contain 23 chromosomes each. So both of these contain 23 chromosomes. And these are known as what? Secondary spermatocytes. Some of the spermatogonia which is called as primary spermatocytes periodically undergoes meiosis. A primary spermatocytes completes the first meiotic division, that is called as reduction division, leading to the formations of the two haploid cells. These are two equal haploid cells which is called as secondary spermatocytes, which has only 23 chromosomes each. So secondary spermatocytes undergo second meiotic division, which produces 4 equal haploid spermatids, and these spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa by the process called as spermiogenesis. So this is the sum of the spermatogonia, which is called as primary spermatocytes, which undergoes first meiotic division to produce two equal haploid cells, which is known as secondary spermatocytes. So these secondary spermatocytes will once again it will go a meiotic division, that is called as second time it will undergo a meiotic division to produce a 4 haploid spermatids. So these are called as spermatids. These spermatids will get transformed into spermatozoa, and this process is known as spermiogenesis. So this process is called as spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis, the sperm head will become embedded into the Sertoli cells and finally releasing from the seminiferous tubules by the process called as spermiation. So after spermiogenesis, we have seen spermiogenesis is the process by which the spermatid it get transformed into the spermatozoa. So this process is known as spermiogenesis. So spermiogenesis is the process by which the spermatid will get transformed into the spermatozoa, and we know the spermatids are haploids. So and finally release from the seminiferous tubules by the process called as spermiation. So they will get embedded into the Sertoli cells. So like this they will get embedded into the Sertoli cells and finally release from the seminiferous tubules by the process called as spermiation. So what is the process of spermiation? After which, after the spermiogenesis, the sperm head will get embedded into the Sertoli cells and finally releasing from the seminiferous tubules. That process is known as spermiation. And spermatogenesis is the process by which the spermatid will get transformed into spermatozoa. So don't get confused. So spermatogenesis. So this is called as spermatogenesis. What is spermatogenesis? Spermatogenesis meaning formations of the sperm. Spermatogenesis starts at the age of puberty due to the significant increase in the gonadotropin releasing hormone. So you should ask yourself a question. Why spermatogenesis occurs as only puberty? That is because at puberty there is an increase in the secretions of the gonadotropins releasing hormone. Increased levels of gonadotropin releasing hormones act at the anterior pituitary gland, which we have already discussed in our previous video, and stimulates the secretions of gonadotropins. So who are these gonadotropins? These are luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. See, gonadotropins are luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Don't get confused between spermiogenesis, spermiation and spermatogenesis. I've already discussed that spermatogenesis is the formation of the sperm which begins at puberty. Spermiation is when the after spermatogenesis when the sperm head will become embedded in the Sertoli cells and finally released from the seminiferous tubule, that is called as spermiation. And spermiogenesis, it is the when the spermatids are transformed into the spermatozoa. See, let's clear it once again. So first there will be spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis is when the spermatids. Spermatids are what? Haploid. So they will get convert into spermatozoa, meaning what? Sperms. Okay. And next is what? Spermiation. So this is first one, this is second one. What is spermiation? Spermiation is after spermatogenesis. The sperm head, it become embedded into the Sertoli cells and finally released from the seminiferous tubules by process of what? Spermiation. And third thing is what? Spermatogenesis. Sperma यानी sperm. Genesis यानी formation. Okay, sperm formation is called as spermatogenesis, which begins at puberty. Why it begins at puberty? Because there is increase in the secretions of gonadotrophins releasing hormone. And who are the gonadotrophins? It is the luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone act at the Leydig cells and stimulate the synthesis and the secretions of the androgen. So what is required for the stimulation and the secretions of the androgens? It is the luteinizing hormone. How you will remember these? See, LH and Leydig cells. So L for L, you can remember that like this, the initial letter. Luteinizing hormone act at the Leydig cells. Androgens which stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. Why androgen is required? Because it stimulates the process of spermatogenesis. Follicle stimulating hormone act on the Sertoli cell. So how you will remember these? SS. So follicle stimulating hormone act on Sertoli cell. It stimulates the secretions of some factors which helps in the process of spermiogenesis. And what is spermiogenesis? Spermiogenesis is during which the spermatids it get transformed into spermatozoa, which is the sperms, by the process called as spermiogenesis. And who is required for this process? And follicle stimulating hormone will act on Sertoli cell. It stimulates some factors which is required for the process of spermiogenesis. Structure of a sperm. Microscopic structure is composed of head, neck, middle piece and the tail. So the sperm, it comprises of what? Head, neck and the middle piece and the tail. Plasma membrane envelopes the whole body of the sperm. So plasma membrane which will envelop the whole body of the sperm. Sperm head contains an elongated haploid nucleus, the anterior portion of which is covered by a cap-like structure which is called as acrosome. Important. So the anterior portion which is present, it comprises of what? It contains a cap-like structure which is called as acrosome. Acrosome is filled with what? Why acrosome is required? Because this acrosome is filled with an enzyme that helps in fertilization of the ovum. Middle piece. Why middle piece? So middle piece is present. Why middle piece is present? Middle piece possesses a numerous mitochondria. Why mitochondria is required? Because it produces energy. So which produces energy for the movement of the tail. So it produces energy for the movement of the tail that will facilitate the sperm motility essential for fertilization. So human males ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperm. Very important. During a coitus of which for a normal fertility, at least 60% of the sperm must have what? Normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them should have vigorous motility. So of these 100%, 60% should have normal shape and size, and of that 40% should have vigorous motility for normal fertility. Sperms released from these seminiferous tubules are transported by accessory ducts, secretions of epididymis, vas deferens, and the seminal vesicles and prostate are essential for what? Maturations and the motility of the sperm. So, secretions of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles, and prostate. It is essential for the maturation and the motility of the sperm. The seminal plasma along with the sperm constitute a semen. So seminal plasma, what it contains? If a question comes, what does seminal plasma contain? It contains sperm along with semen. So seminal plasma contains two things, sperm and semen. The functions of the male sex accessory ducts and the glands are maintained by testicular hormone, which is called as androgen. We can see in this diagram that the anterior portion, which is called as what? Acrosome. Acrosome is a cap-like structure. Why acrosome is necessary? Because it is filled with enzyme. Why enzyme is required? Because it helps in fertilizations of the ovum. So the middle piece, let's come to the middle piece. The middle piece possesses numerous mitochondria. And why mitochondria is required? Because it produces energy for the movement of the tail. That will facilitate what? Motility, which is essential for fertilization. So it has neck, it has head. What all thing head constitute of? It contain plasma membrane, acrosome, and nucleus containing chromosomal material. Then there is neck, there is middle piece. It has mitochondria, which is energy source for the swimming, and it has a tail. So this diagram is also important.